Okay, I'm back. And all right, let's see. When I left off last time on the ant farm, I was looking at the some options for getting the cursor logic to work in by implementing it in JavaScript, and I feel like I don't actually want. So I was thinking I would have some of the JavaScript code and have some state, specifically like the values, some hash maps that are stateful, that get built up and can get used to give us constant time access to certain things. And I'm thinking now that I don't want to do that. And I'm not sure exactly what I want to do, but I think I'll just implement something and see what works. While I'm here, though, let me make sure that OBS and the chat stay on all the desktops so I don't miss any chats like I did last time. I feel like I wish there were an easier way in YouTube to get to the stream, like the streamer view. It's like 4 clicks. And in theory, OBS has a panel that emulates it, but for whatever reason, my OBS doesn't connect to the internet properly. All right, there we go. Although YouTube has a big something went wrong sign. So who knows? I don't know if I have access to the chat now. Here we go. I have access from this other screen. Right. Finally. Okay. All right. So there's a couple of things that I want to do. One is check out search Fox. I want to see how get element by ID is implemented. I don't remember what the search Fox URL is. I guess searchfox.org. Now I'm not sure what Octane and Mandrill are. Fix our Octane Mandrill latency performance. So Octane is maybe a benchmarking suite. Yeah, I don't know. We have this Android component stuff. Maybe this is what I want. So get element by ID is like, what kind of file is this? Some JavaScript file. I'm not sure. I guess this is just defining a function with this name. And inside we have another function. I'm not sure what's going on with that syntax. But we have this, given an ID, maybe we have a function get element of a node. Now look at the children's length. And if the node ID is the given ID, we return the node. In which case, I don't know why we computed the length first. Otherwise, we're going to iterate over the length of the children, and we're going to look at the node's children and get the element. That does seem to be like O of the number of children. There's no obvious optimizations there. What is the ID element even really about? It specifies a unique ID for an HTML element. So I'm not sure how often it's used. Let's look at the source code for this page. Okay, so at least here we don't have, I guess we usually don't have IDs for paragraphs and headers. What about like a Wikipedia page? Like the page for monkey. Okay. So it seems like it's relatively uncommon for like textual elements to have IDs. But I'll ask Gemini. So in HTML, how common is it? Well, first of all, do they even support the tag? So you know what? It doesn't even matter if we're doing a linear search. So in browsers, is get element by ID usually a linear search? While it might seem intuitive to think that the browser would have to iterate through all elements to find one specific ID, modern browsers employ much more efficient methods. How get element by ID works, hash-based lookup most browsers use a hash table or similar data structure to store elements by their ID. This allows for almost instant retrieval of an element based on its ID, and DOM tree optimization itself is structured like a tree. So that is true. There is. So you do have to do. The tree structure can sometimes give you information, like if the leaves are ordered and you're doing some like binary search. But I think an ID is pretty arbitrary. So if you don't have a hash lookup, then you're pretty much destined to iterate over the whole thing. So it's saying now that get element by ID can be considered O of 1, which I thought it told me previously that it wasn't. Let's get where can I find this? What is Firefox JavaScript engines called? What's it just called? There's Warp. Spider Monkey. Okay, so where did SearchFox go? I guess I closed it. So Warp, we have this just-in-time thing. So maybe it's just like a just-in-time compilation for Spider Monkey. So this seems to be possibly the right place. Can I do like a JS source star and look for get element by ID? Can I look for int? I really feel like I should be able to find this. It doesn't really matter. And now I'm just like curious and a little bit mystified. Maybe I can click on this get element by ID. So I can find this thing, and then it's a function on document. So presumably, what is this? A MJS file. So do we import document? We don't have imports or includes as far as I know. Browser-based content about robots, rather. We have this in the IDL, we have it in the definitions. Stop that, don't do that. And we have NSL node get element by ID. Oops, this looks promising. DOM/base/NSL node. We're including a ton of stuff. It's in C++. You're passing in a string NS a string. So should we're asserting that we're not the shadow root. We're asserting is element and is document fragment. We're checking if it's an uncomposed doc. And if shadow root containing shadow. Okay, so this is an assignment. So we're getting the containing shadow. And we have this assertion. We're going to call find matching element with ID. So if we're down here, I guess we don't have a containing shadow. We're going to get first child, which we're calling kid. And if the kid is not an element, we're going to ignore it. We're going to get its ID. And then we're just checking. So we do walk along the we do walk along the children if we don't have this matching shadow thing. Can I open this in a new tab? No. Lame. I can open that in a new tab. And get containing shadow. So find matching element. Given an ID, find the first element with that ID under a root. So you're asking for an ID with some root in some document or shadow root. And we're first calling get all elements for ID, which is const. So get all element for ID is going to what? We've got some M identifier map, get entry, a element. So get all elements for ID. We pass in some ID, right? And then we look it up in some map. And if we have an entry, then we return it. So that's good. That's ultimately the map lookup, it looks like. And so what is the issue here? We may have too many elements with the same ID. If we don't have any elements, then we return some null pointer. XXXBC. Should we fall back to the tree walk if elements is long or some value of long? Possibly. All right, so, and then they're going to iterate over the elements. This is unlikely thing. So it's unlikely that the elements that we get include the root, I guess. We'll continue. And I think this Moz unlikely thing is probably a hint maybe to the compiler that this is an unlikely branch. And we check among the elements that have the ID that we passed in, we check whether it's an inclusive descendant of a root. In which case we continue. Sorry, if it's not a descendant, then we have nothing to do. Otherwise, we return, I guess, essentially the first descendant we find that's returned by the map. I don't think we've iterated over them in any particular order. I'm not sure if the map preserves any sort of order, so it might be just if there are multiple matches, it might just return an arbitrary one, or I think ID is supposed to be unique in the document, so I don't know why there even would be multiple matches, but who knows? Okay, so it does look like that's ultimately a O of one lookup. We have this get containing shadow. I don't know what that is. It gets the root of the node tree for this content if it is in a shadow tree. Okay. And I'm sure we would see a roughly similar implementation if we looked it up in Chrome, which is maybe implemented in V8. We have some calls to get element by ID. I don't know if we have any ability to click on this. We restrict the file type to what about lang? Okay, so the language restriction does work, but we have no references to get element by ID in C++. But it's somewhere. I'm just not going to spend any time finding it. And in fact, a V8 I think is well, by I think I know V8 is general JavaScript. It may be that the stuff for elements and DOMs is in Chrome itself. Okay, so what did that tell us? That told us that we can just use identifiers. Let's start a docs folder. What help us how's the my name? So we consider some other design. So keeping state in JavaScript. So I'll say keeping cursor state. Rolled out because activity lifecycle changes would invalidate the state, and browsers maintain enough state for us anyway. Okay, so that's one thing we've thought about. Another thing we've thought about is all the stuff we talked about with Gemini, which is storing text spans ruled out because it's difficult to get from the text span, storing, let's say, only text spans from only the text span to the corresponding JavaScript element, I guess. Why did we rule it out? Yeah, because at runtime, the JavaScript thing is not a string. So because the text span is essentially a portion of a string or a source file, and that's not convenient for operating on a parsed DOM inside the web view. Okay, so that's reasonable. And the basic design is we will assume that on server side, the readability cleaning process will assign unique identifiers to all text-based HTML elements that the TTS system cares about. During the same process, so after the readability, after the document has been cleaned for readability, we will, the server will assign unique, oh, hang on. Identifiers to all HTML elements, or only to those elements relevant to the TTS system. E.g. textual elements. Okay, and then I think I can do this, right? Yeah. So what else do we do? So on the mobile client, the unique identifiers are stored as strings in Flutter, and then we can call get element ID via JavaScript in order to do an O of 1, say typically, lookup for the corresponding element. This will typically be a key paragraph, header, title, list item, table item. Are lists and tables separate for HTML? I think they are, right? Yeah. Table, wait, what is table H? Table header? What else do we want to read? How about we go to another Wikipedia article? How about spam, the foodstuffs? So we typically don't want to hear, you typically wouldn't want to hear this metadata. You don't want to hear the table of contents. You don't want to hear the header or footer or this appearance stuff. You don't want to hear any of this stuff about article or talk or read edit history or search Wikipedia. You do want all of that with a screen reader, if an accessibility thing, because you want to be able to know where the various items are. But if we're turning this into like a podcast sort of thing, then we don't want to hear that. We probably don't want to hear the references. Maybe the references can be optional. And I don't know about the see alsos. So I think all of these are anchors. What about anchors? So for something like, well, no. So see also is a header. And then we have a bunch of things. So I guess the text in links with a thing like Wikipedia, if we don't, well, are these all in paragraphs? This is not a paragraph. I don't know what will happen if you just pass this whole thing off to the text-to-speech system. Uh, my power is blinking on and off. That may cause problems. Yeah, I don't know. I looked at I built a I built a demo of this app, and I can't remember. I don't think I did anything with the anchors in particular, but it does read the links, at least for that that appear here, like within the paragraphs. And I think that the text-to-speech system just knows to ignore the anchors. There's probably an easy way to do that, but well, yeah, I should be able to just test that out, right? Like here, here's the main screen. Let's try this out. Okay, so we have this. I don't know. I think I have. I think I have OBS set to defensively not play any of the audio from my computer, mainly so that I don't get a copyright strike if I try to listen to something and one of my OBS configurations gets forked. But I don't have the sequined love nun. So I don't think you'll be able to hear it if I play this, but I will be able to hear it, and I'll tell you what I hear. Let me grab an anchor, maybe one that I know is inside of a paragraph. Let me just grab this whole paragraph about Monty Python. How do I get rid of this keyboard? Okay, they don't want me to search for the US voice. English US.
Less than span greater than less than a href equals /w /index.php. Title equals spam underscore food and amp. Action equals edit and amp. Section equals 18 inches.
So I
title
turned on,
equals edit section.
desktop sound,
Monty
so
Python sketch.
hopefully you can hear some of this, but it's reading all of the things. So we don't want
less
that.
than div class equals
Okay,
MW heading 3 inches
off.
greater than
I'll be right back. Give me about 1 minute. All right. Okay, so given this, so we will have to do some effort to clean that up. That's not a big deal. It's not even a small deal. Okay, and then, no, I don't want that. And then the last basic piece of the design is that, well, hang on. The server will assign not only unique identifiers, but the identifiers will be so they'll encode an enumeration of the document. The document's text represent audio convertible text representation. Well, just audio convertible representation. That's a kind of crazy sentence, but what it's trying to say is that e.g. they will have a form like lectors speak NM, where the string lectors speak is designed to be there so that it doesn't clash with anything that might naturally be in the HTML document, so that it doesn't like mess up CSS or whatever. Anything that might actually be using the ID property. Where n is, so the one natural thing would be just to have n, where n goes from 1 to the max of whatever the biggest int that that JavaScript engines support. I think JavaScript itself has unbounded integers. I don't know about Dart. Maybe I don't have to worry about boundedness. How about our JavaScript ints bounded? Okay, so the most frequently used number type number is a 64-bit floating point. Floating point. The largest exact integral value of this type is number max safe integer, which is 2 to the 53 minus 1, which is big, 9 quadrillion, 7 trillion, 199 billion, etc. I guess that's enough. That seems like enough. What about Dart? Okay, so let's just assume it seems big enough. We'll just assume that we can use big integers where n is an integer ranging from 1 to or 0 to maximum representable integer in JavaScript. Okay, so that'll be fine. And then yeah, on the mobile client we have this blah blah blah. The audio cursor, and the audio cursor is really just the like reading cursor. Where did you leave off reading? I'm calling it the audio cursor because it's the thing that interfaces with the text-to-speech system. With the audio cursor, which encodes where the reader left off reading, will be implemented as a would it be a class? Hey, so the blah blah blah. Where's the difference? It's just that IDs are unique. So ID is unique in a page and can only apply to at most one element, while class selector can apply to multiple elements. But I think what this doesn't say is that an element can't have two unique IDs. So only one element can have a specific ID. That itself doesn't imply that an element can't have multiple IDs. Let's ask ChatGPT. So in HTML, can an element have more than one ID? Okay, so that's fine. We've used up the unique ID property to get a stable O of 1 identifier for elements. I think that's a reasonable use of IDs. And then the audio cursor, I think, can take longer to to do, and we'll have that be a class. And there might be a similar lookup for class. I'll ask, is there get element by class? Get elements by class name. Does get elements by class name also have an O of 1 style optimization through something like hash tables? You would think so. What? The returned collection is a live node list. Oh. While get element by ID is highly optimized for fast lookups, get elements by class name is generally less efficient due to the nature of its task. If performance is critical when dealing with multiple elements sharing a class, consider alternative approaches like using CSS selectors with JavaScript or pre-caching the results. What is this live node list? The returned collection is a live node list, meaning it reflects changes to the DOM. Let's go back to search box. What's it called? Native get element by ID. Let's find get elements by ID first because we've already looked for it. There's no S in elements. Okay, so get elements by class name calls this utility thingy. We're going to do some asserts. Get func string content list. NS cacheable func string HTML collection. Passing in the root node the match class names, the destroy class name array, alloc class matching info in A classes. You're passing in multiple classes. And I have no idea what this is. Get func string content list. It's some sort of template. And it returns an already added ref. And we might initialize a hash table and some other stuff. So there's some hash table involved. I assume that this is slightly, sounds like it's at least a little bit more nuanced than get element by ID, but I think that'll be fine. As a class, called like lector audio cursor. Again, we'll pop lector in there so that it doesn't, or at least is unlikely to conflict with existing classes. CSS will be used to highlight elements in class lector audio cursor. And then the So there's two things. There's two things we could do. One is in terms of persistence. We can persist the we can persist the article with the changes, and that means that there's always going to be churn on the articles, which will disrupt our ability to do things like have caches and yeah, basically caches. So that seems not great. Possibly better would be we just the IDs are part of the article anyway, so that's not going to be a big deal. Content delivery system is what I was thinking of, but the audio cursor is going to change all the time, so we will persist it, I guess, as we will persist the audio cursor by recording the ID element of so the ID property. What are they called? Attribute, I think. The ID attribute of the HTML element that was in the vector audio cursor class. So this is just a string. And this string can be pushed upstream to the vector backend so that all devices see the same progress. Each device can then add the cursor position when the article is loaded. Okay, so, and then possible extensions. And the main thing I wanted to list as a possible extension is that we may want to record text spans as associated data for large paragraphs. We may want, because some paragraphs are large, we may want to store a text span offset within the given element. This can be stored in the DB and persisted upstream for synchronization to all clients. In addition, the span can be used to focus the highlighting on specific sentences or sections, subsections of the paragraph. Okay, and yeah. And then I had one more thought, which is what? I'm not sure what it was. It may come back to me. I don't like that long URL. Okay. All right, so let me just take another look at this to jog my memory. We're going to clean it for readability on the server, and then there's going to be identifiers that are enumerated, and then we'll ask with the we'll have some JavaScript to look up the particular elements by ID. The audio cursor is some class, and we're using CSS to highlight it. I'll say we manage this state in the HTML document for speed and to ensure that the audio correctly tracks the state of the web view. The web view state is more difficult to access and is the source of truth of what is showing on screen in the browser. Okay. So that's that. Oh, text spans. Yeah, there's a span there's like a span element, right? HTML span that I think we can use. There was some thorny thing that I've forgotten about, but I'm sure I'll remember it at some point. Call this well, design. I call that problem. Well, I'll call this design overview. And then here I'll say this is the this will be the cursor data structure. And the cursor data structure will basically have what? The cursor itself maintained in the HTML doc as above, but we need like other data structures to track the current index or n in the ID name system. If we're using if we're subdividing HTML elements into text spans, we need to enumerate all the text, all the elements, text spans, so we can iterate over them and reverse, forward, etc. So this implies a Dart data structure. So the data structure is basically like a, I don't know what syntax this is, but I'll do some nonsense syntax. Something like good mode and org. I forget how it works. So there'll be some struct, and it will have like ID, which is an int, and it will have list of text spans. And this elements. Okay. Or I'm calling them text spans, but yeah, that's fine. Then a text span. So we'll call this a an audio place. What will we call it? I don't know. We'll call it something. And then we'll so then we have some other struct, which is the text span itself, which has what, like a int start, int end. There's some start offset, some end offset, and the text itself. Now, I don't know if I don't think these things need to be communicated to the server. What did I say needed to be conserved? Just, I think really just the integer. Well, what? I guess it's not the end of the world if clients don't all agree on what the right text span is. And to some extent, that might be configurable. We may decide down the line that some people like to have large chunks of text and some people like to have smaller chunks of text. And I kind of don't really feel like making all of this state that has to be added to the database. I think that it's probably sufficient to just have one text to the structure to persist. Kind of would look like this. It would have some int ID of for audio cursor, and it would have a single text span. It doesn't need the full text span, so it just needs the offsets. Current text span. Something like that. I'll call it these are terrible names, but well, this is our first draft. Okay, so something like this, I think, will work. Well, add a note. We don't need to persist. the full text span, it's sufficient to just record where the reader is. The clients can reconstruct the other text spans in whatever way they want. Clients don't have to agree on text spans. They just have to agree where the user is. Okay, so something like that. I misformatted my struct because I guess org mode thinks it's a regular text. Okay. So this last one, if we're persisting it, I think it deserves to be a proto. Do I really want to call it audio place? I guess there's time to change it. And then this will be, I feel like int32 is probably fine. What are the chances that there's going to be a document with int64 paragraphs? What's the big, it's like, we're using unsigned ints because that's what Postgres knows about. This is what? Thousands, millions, billions, trillions. So 4 trillion. How many paragraphs does the longest known book have? This can't be the longest book ever published. So 1.2 million words, it's unlikely to be a word per paragraph. Pages 4,000. What about the collected works of Euler? So that's only a few hundred pages. 67 of 81 volumes had been published in 4 series. Earlier, it was planned to consist of 84 volumes, about 35,000 pages. 80 of the 81 volumes have been published. let's just look up longest book ever published. So this is saying the same thing. This might be the longest novel. Okay, so how, we'll ask how many pages to do the following. Estimate the total number of books in the Harvard Library. Then estimate the total number of pages in all the books in the Harvard Library. Then estimate the number of paragraphs per page and produce an estimate in the number of paragraphs at Harvard. It's one of the largest academic libraries in the world. About 20 million books. Estimate the total number of pages. They're assuming a book has about 300 pages on average. It's about 6 billion pages. There may be about 3 paragraphs per page. That's 18 billion paragraphs. Okay. I feel like int 32 should be fine. Okay, so int 32, and then what else do we have? Int 32. I'll say that it's non-zero if we need to index into a long paragraph. Now I could define another message for text spans as a proto. That would probably be best practice for future-proofing this proto. For example, I would be able to change text span to include a like the text itself, just like this version of text span here. Or I could include some sort of identifier, or I could include my favorite quote. And I don't really want to do that, but I am going to do it because I can't. I know it's the right thing to do, and it's only mildly annoying to do it, so I guess that's a good enough reason. So this is some text span. Okay, so that's that, and then we need some other RPC. This job stuff should really not be part of the same service, I don't think. I guess the idea that I had for including it is this: it's used to track the fetch jobs, and sometimes a client, like the mobile phone, you'll add an article on the mobile phone, and the theory is that would kick off a process on the server, and you may want to know when that's done so that you can request the database sync. This doesn't feel right to have it there, but I'm not going to move it yet. We do have this update reading progress. which has some article ID and some progress offset. And so we'll replace this with audio plays. This will break backward compatibility for using this number, but I happen to know that this is not being used anywhere. So even though it's bad practice, I should assign it the next number, but I think I'm not going to. And then this raises the question of whether we do want to record like a progress offset or a percent complete. And I think we don't need to. I think if we have the audio place, then we can compute the percent complete, and the audio place seems to be the right sort of thing to, you know what, now I'm starting to like the name audio place. Okay, at any rate, that's that. We'll have to regenerate all the things that's mildly annoying for the version of Protos that gRPC Haskell uses. So I'm going to do that offline. It's also going to cause errors. And I'll have to like fix up tests and stuff. We'll just pop these protos in here. And then in org mode, how do I do like code sections? Code blocks? I guess it says C comma. What did I just do? So C comma changes the priority of a to-do item. So it wants me to quote source, maybe S. Isn't that what I did? Oh, I did C. Yeah, okay, I see what I did. I wasn't holding on control for the second one. Okay. So I can do this, and then how do I specify the language? It goes here. But I assume it just goes as a string. Okay. I got to stop now. I may be back.